Korea crashed out of the 2026 World Cup, gone in the group stage. Back home, the country lost it. Roasting Myung-bo-hong, the manager who ran that World Cup, is a meme that won't die. Son Heung-min, the captain, the best forward Asia has ever produced, was on the bench for the game that decided everything. AI memes started filling that bench with other people. Mbappe, in a red shirt, benched. Ronaldo, Messi, also benched. Feed this system any superstar on earth, and the Korean team will find a way to waste him. Ask the neighbor. Japan is Korea's oldest football rival, the one team Korean fans say you can lose to anyone but. And that Japan, right now, is scary good. Unbeaten in 11 straight matches against European teams, and at this World Cup, it almost got Brazil. Look at Korea's roster, and that gap makes no sense. Heung-min Son, a Premier League Golden Boot winner. Min-jae Kim, a Bayern Munich center-back. Kang-in Lee, a core asset at PSG. Man for man, Korea is still world-class. So why does it keep falling behind while Japan is having the best run in its history? That question is why this video exists. The answer is not the lineup card. The rot goes deeper than one manager. And Korea clearly has something to learn from Japan. Today, 3 things. 1. How Korea's own football association broke Korean football. 2. How Japan spent 20 years building the system Korea never built. 3. Why part of the blame sits with ordinary Koreans themselves. I'm Ko, and welcome to the Ko Report on Korea. Let's dive in. Start at the top. For 13 years, one man ran Korean football, Mon-gyu-jung. 4 straight terms since 2013. And the Korean Football Federation chairman is not ceremonial. Players, coaches, referees, how they've developed and managed all signs off through him. In corporate terms, the absolute CEO of the sport. That job has a 2-term limit. Jung was on his 4th, waved through on a special exemption. And it was possible for one reason. The public does not pick the KFA chairman. An electoral college of 192 people does, what critics call a gymnasium election. Win the politics inside that room, and it doesn't matter how harshly the rest of the country criticizes you. And the criticism was loud. When Jung ran for 4th term, the backlash reached the government itself. The federation reached for a shield. FIFA bars any government, press, or fan interference in a national federation on penalty of World Cup suspension. Push us, the federation warned, and Korea risked a World Cup ban. The government had to back off. The numbers on this are blunt. 61% of the public opposed his 4th term. He won it with 86% of the vote. That is why fans can hang protest banners in the stands, chant for him to leave, threaten boycotts, and nothing moves. So how does a federation this rotten hurt the actual team? Through the biggest lever it holds, hiring the national team manager. In 2023, the KFA hired Klinsmann, a coach fans did not want, with a coaching record that had been thin for a decade. This too was Mon-gyu-jung's decision. Klinsmann was Korea's manager, but he avoided to stay in Korea. He reportedly thought the training center sat too close to North Korea, too dangerous, and only spent 67 days in the country in roughly 6 months, and ran the team from the United States, salaried running the whole time. The public was furious. In February 2024, the federation fired him, and the exit cost about $5 million for Klinsmann, roughly $7 million with his staff. One bad pick by one man and a fortune in quasi-taxes, public money, in effect, gone. After burning $7 million on Klinsmann, the public demanded an open, professional search, and qualified foreign coaches actually applied. The federation ignored him and handed the job to Myung-bo-hong, the man from the South African Knight, a manager who had already failed at a World Cup in 2014. A government audit later ruled the selection process violated procedure. People criticized, but he debuted anyways. By the way, Mon-gyu-jung, Korea University. Myung-bo-hong, Korea University. Apparently in Korean football, the right school can outweigh the wrong track record. So where exactly did Korean football break? Look at what Japan built while Korea kept changing managers. Japan plays football with a system. It builds players on conveyor belt, steady, replaceable, always another one coming. Korea plays football with geniuses. Bet everything on 1 or 2 generational talents and hope they show up in the same decade. Japan's conveyor belt has a start date, 2005. The Japan Football Association published a declaration with a hard number and a deadline. By 2050, 10 million Japanese people involved in the football industry and a win at the World Cup. They picked a target 45 years out, worked backward decade by decade, and spent the next 20 years building a system to hit it. Japan started by studying football abroad. Brazil, Spain, hunting for a style that could fit its player. It settled on Spain, similar builds, and a short passing game that does not need size. Then it committed. When Japan flopped at the 2014 World Cup, the imitation got mocked as sushi-taka, and some of the loudest laughter came from Korea. Japan did not switch. It wrote that style into national document, Japan's way, and kept stacking the same asset year after year. In Qatar 2022, Japan beat Spain, the country that invented tiki-taka, 2-1, and it has kept climbing since. The point is consistency. When the vision is written down, a manager change does not reset the football. Squads get picked to fit the strategy, players train for it, and kids grow up inside it. A country that kept a style everyone laughed at for 20 years. That consistency was the system. Underneath it all is the base, and the two countries raise players in completely different ways. In Japan, any kid can play. Join a local club, stay in a normal school, keep playing for years. In Korea, football is all or nothing. Join an elite school team as a kid, train like a pro, gamble your education on going pro, or quit the sport entirely. Japan keeps kids playing. Korea makes them choose. And this comes into number. Count every registered player. Japan over 800,000. Korea near 160,000. Go younger and it gets darker. Under 12s, same age band. Japan 270,000. Korea 20,000. Does headcount alone matter? In football, yes. Nobody can predict which kid becomes a star. Talent shows up randomly. So the more kids playing, the more chances a country gets. And a pool 13 times bigger also means more competition at every age group, which pushes the whole level up. Korea waits for a genius to just pop out of nowhere. Japan made sure geniuses keep showing up. Japan now has more than 100 players in Europe's main leagues, up around 90% in 5 years, and more than 60% of them left before they ever wore national shirt. The youth system produces them. Europe picks them up. Korea's route still runs through one door. Become the national team star first, then earn the move abroad. But keeping a base of that size itself is an investment. Somebody has to pay for the academies, the coaches, the leagues for hundreds of thousands of kids every single year. So the real gap between Japan and Korea is an investment gap. And where does football money come from? One place: attention. Some of this mess is on ordinary Koreans themselves, because the truth is, Koreans barely watch their own league. It's not that they hate football. When a World Cup comes around, chicken sales explode, and a country too polarized to agree on everything fills the public squares. Hundreds of thousands of strangers in matching red shirts cheering as one. However, the local league is a different story. The same country ignores it totally. The attendance numbers prove it. The KBO, or Korea's Baseball League, drew 10.9 million fans in 2024 and a record 12.3 million in 2025. The Football League, K-League, drew about 2.45 million, more than 4 times fewer. Same country, same season. On TV, a World Cup match pulls around 32.5% of Korean households. A regular K-League broadcast, under 1%. That indifference shows up in audited filings. Not one domestic pro club turns a real profit. Start with the 3 richest, the chaebol-owned clubs. Jeonbuk, backed by Hyundai, FC Seoul by GS, Jeju by SK. In 2025, those 3 booked a combined $64 million in advertising money paid by their own parent companies, and all 3 still posted an operating loss. Of the league's 7 biggest clubs, 5 ran operating losses, and the 2 that did not only got there by counting government subsidies as revenue. The club's broken finances show up one more way: broadcast money. A broadcast contract is a market price of attention. Broadcasters pay for the eyeballs a league delivers. Nobody watches the K-League, so its rights go for about $10 million a year. For scale, TVing, a streaming service in Korea, pays about $32 million a year just to stream the baseball league, 3 times the price of all of Korean professional football's broadcast rights. Japan sells the same product, the rights to air its league, for about $140 million a year to the streaming service, DAZN, 14 times Korea's number. And that difference compounds downstream, because broadcast money is what funds the football underneath, the academies, the coaching, the smaller clubs. Japanese football has 14 times more of it flowing into the base. Let's look at the direction the money flows. In Korea, it flows up. The KFA's single largest line of spending is the national team, about $23 million. In Japan, it flows down. Broadcast money becomes club money, which becomes youth money. That one direction explains every other gap in this story. And the loop closes on itself. Nobody watches the league, so its rights sell cheap. Cheap rights mean nothing to distribute. No distribution, so deficits. Deficits for the club, so no money for the system. No system, and the national team leans on whatever stars it happens to have, who carry it to one good World Cup run every 4 years. And when the World Cup ends, everyone stops watching again. And that loop is why the federation never had to change. If attention only shows up once every 4 years only at the World Cup, its politics only has to survive a few weeks once every 4 years. The money does not push back either. About 44% of the federation revenue is quasi-tax, a legal cut of sports betting revenue plus government sports fund, money that arrives whether or not a single fan shows up. So the federation has no financial reason to answer to fans. That is how the federation could burn $7 million firing Klinsmann and feel nothing. The federation customer was never the fan. The fix is not a 100-year plan. It is accepting what Japan accepted in 2005. You don't get the big matches right by obsessing over big matches. You get them right by taking care of the small, boring parts of the system, the kids' league, the club finance, the things nobody cheers for, because that is what eventually walks onto a World Cup pitch. I've seen this structure before on this channel. When I covered the K-pop industry, the risk that kept coming up was the key man risk. A business built on one irreplaceable star, where a single enlistment or scandal can shake the whole company. Korean football runs on the same model. Japan spent 20 years replacing the key man with a system, and a system is the only asset that never retires. Someday, of course, another Heung-min Son will come along. But waiting for him is not a development plan. The question is who builds the next team. Thanks for watching the Crew Report on Korea. I'm Ko, and I'll see you in the next report.